This machine has been pretty exceptional. I'm actually over 250 kilometers on this. I haven't had that much chance to really get out on it. I've been just so busy that I should have already finished this review, but here we are. And it has been absolutely incredible. It's like now I'm just flying down the road, nice and stable, nice and smooth. The suspension is something else, and I've referenced this in my other videos recently. Videos of late, I do struggle with lower back pain, and it's pretty horrible. Get woken up during the night. And this, right now, riding a non-suspension wheel for me is almost out. Almost out. I can do it, but it does make things a little bit difficult. Lack of sleep, etc. Not pleasant. So this, heading out on this, doing the miles on this, is basically zero issues. It just takes the whip out of those bumps really nicely. I've had no lower back pain riding this wheel at all. So if you're someone that really struggles with lower back pain, you want something like a Sherman to do that range, do that mileage, then this could be for you, quite possibly. I found it to be just plenty of power. I mean, don't forget, this is the high torque version. Woo! High torque version, not high speed version, and this thing flies, absolutely flies. But if speed's not your thing, the torque just is plenty for a machine. Caveat, for a machine this heavy, basically knocking on 50 kilograms, as we've talked about before. That's pretty meaty. We got things like the V13 coming out that essentially is that size. Yeah. And weight. So here we go now, side view. Boom, nothing. Don't feel a thing. And then if we go up a bank like this one, super horrible entrance. This is pretty steep, you won't get it on camera obviously, but you kind of, it just flies up it. It's non-issue. We've had a lot of rainfall recently. We've had some of the driest weather on record, and now I'm heading out typically in some of the wettest ground. I could have ridden no problems at all in lovely dry weather all this time, but I just have not had the chance to dedicate time to coming out and doing a ride out, filming, etc. Hence the reason I'm filming this whilst riding, to get the review in there, so you guys at least get a bit of a feedback, bit of taste on what's happening with the EX20s. And again, I am thoroughly enjoying this wheel because it's right up my street. So in terms of range that it does, it's up there with the Sherman, and of course it's just so comfortable because of the suspension. The tyre, the off-road tyre, now many of you do a lot of street riding, like all you do is street riding, and you put a street tyre on it. I've seen that done across multiple models, different wheels. This for me is spot on. I do probably like a 60-40 split between road and off-road. Now if I'm doing the 1,000 kilometer test like I do on most of the wheels, I may find myself doing mostly road just to get that mileage in, because it's really hard work doing the sort of mileage that I'm doing on them off-road, because this is pretty challenging terrain. It's not like just a little soft bike trail, as in like a fire trail as we call them. A lot of this terrain is pretty tough in the Forest of Dean, so there is always that to consider. So I try and do most of the road, but nonetheless these tyres, I absolutely love them. I think part of the problem maybe is that when they're fresh, the knobbles are real knobbles, and when you've worn it in a little bit, done a few miles on it, sort of 100 miles in, you'll find that it rounds off, turns a bit more acceptable on the road than it would be straight out, fresh out the box. But like where I am now, this is just digging in nicely. Doesn't mean it'll never slip, it can do, but it doesn't have bite in comparison to some other tyres. Sort of the cross terrain tyres I find more problematic. They don't quite meet either bit more of a fight. So they're rideable, it's not a problem. It's like with the wheels, you can pretty much take any wheel anywhere. It's just the level of difficulty, or effort should I say, increases. And one of those key factors, like then it's really slippy and it just grips in. One of the key factors is tyre above all else. Coming down here now on a cross-ply tyre, or whatever, on a cross-terrain tyre, you'll probably find that it would be slipping, but this is so much confidence in it. And again, the suspension is just working away here with no concern whatsoever, so that's pretty sweet. I get onto a straight fire trail like this one now, and I can just lean forward and it just goes. Really, really nice. And with that, I'm not eating into any huge amount of battery because the batteries are so big. So I can cut across here now. I'm straight going over some rough terrain now. I can smack into that and the suspension's taking it. It's just absorbing those bumps, don't feel it up through my back, nothing. I mean, I've obviously got my knees bent. The side pads, I haven't got the little ones, they didn't come in the box. Never fit them since day one. More than happy with these. I could properly lean into the massive side pads and just lean into them. And it's nice and soft, they're not harsh on the old shins, they're all good. No problemo. So from that point of view, that's really good as well. There are like so many features of this wheel that I really like, and if I want to sit down now, I can just steady myself, sit down, and I'm good to go. Lovely. It's like a nice summer's day, but slightly treacherous in terms of huge amount of rainfall in the last few hours. But just sit down, it's super comfortable. This seat runs front to back of this whole wheel, and it's lovely and wide. I'm not teetering on the edge, nothing like that. And then again, if this was not a suspension wheel, I hit a bump like this on this off-road, it will go right up through the lower of your spine. This is not an issue with this. With the suspension, it just takes that hit. The only downside I said to this suspension is that it's quite noisy, it's quite clunky. You know, when you hit something big, it's quite a noisy suspension. Haven't had any squeaking. I did have a period where it squeaked a bit, and I thought, oh great, I've only ridden it, whatever it was, 80 kilometres, and it started squeaking, but that seems to have completely subsided. So I don't know what that was about, but it's working fine. And then getting back into the standing position was as easy as that, no problem. So I suppose, what else have I got to say about this wheel? The lights are good. The lights are adjustable. First video, I questioned whether they were. They are. So you just loosen off the bolt. You can tilt it forward and backwards. No problems. That's all good. So you can adjust the front lights. Foot plates. Got to reiterate, and I'm probably going to do it in the final two reviews I got to do on this wheel. Probably going to reiterate this. They are super grippy with the spikes on them. Really, really good. No slippage whatsoever. Just brilliant. Combined with the side pads, spike foot plates, and large spike foot plates at that, just every confidence in leaning forward and pushing in and leaning into those pads. So that's pretty epic as well. I love everything about this wheel, as you may have gathered. It sort of does it for me. If I didn't have back issues, I'd probably go to the Sherman to save the complication of having suspension, because that does everything that I could ever want it to do. But the addition of having the same battery capacity and suspension, it's like a win-win. I mean, I'm going down pretty, let's drop off here, super muddy here. I'm going down pretty rough stuff and just not feeling it. I won't pay a price for it later on either. So bad knees, bad back, this could be for you. So should you consider this wheel, I think I ran through this before, but should you consider it, well, budget dependent, and if you're only doing 5 miles there and 5 miles back, this is going to be huge overkill. So unless you've got cash burning a hole in your pocket, you're not going to need it. This is for someone that's going to sit on a road constantly for a long range, and we did that. If you haven't seen it, check out the video. linked up now and below of the 200 miler we did in 12 hours. So we did 200 miles in 12 hours. This wheel was used as well as the Monster Pro. We swapped around wheels, so we had 2 wheels each, and then when we headed out, did 45-mile trip, lobbed this back on charge with the 2 chargers plugged into it, and then bombed back out on the Monster Pro to 45 miles, came back, took this off, and then headed back and cycled around like that, and we did 200 miles in 12 hours, just by the skin of our teeth, but quite an achievement. All that was road, basically, pretty much, so like 99% road, and that was on this wheel. So with this tyre, and absolutely killing it on the road, because we didn't have time to waste. We couldn't just sit back because we had a time limit as well as a distance, so to try and conserve battery and do it in that time. So 2 metrics. I mean, obviously the slower you go, you can go miles further. Like this wheel with the range test, see video 1 linked up, you'll see the range we got out of this. You get massively more if you slow it down. So you're constantly playing around, but for me this is an all-in-one, way too heavy. So I can tell you now, I despise lifting it into the car. I despise it. It's the first wheel ever. It makes me almost feel a bit sick having to think about lifting it in and out. The shape of my car, yours may be different, but just dropping this off the back seat, it won't fit in the footwell of my car. Dropping it off the back seat, you can't just drop it off the back seat, because you're going to smash these foot plates and pillars and battery packs into the chassis of the car and chip the paint off. So you have to lift it out, and it's just a horrible experience. So if you're constantly lifting something in and out, you do not want a 50-kilogram wheel, obviously. But it's not just the weight, it's the size and the bulkiness of it, and the lack of places to grab. So that's my only gripe. But if you're jumping on this thing and you're going out for a massively long ride, and that's how you ride, and that's your pattern, and if it's just a weekend toy but you want to do loads of miles, you want to spend a Saturday out there or whatever, this is, yeah, definitely consider it. I'm going to hit a massive stone here and see what happens. Oh, doesn't feel a thing. Amazing, just brilliant. I don't even need to hit the stone, but I start whacking into stones now on purpose because it's so effortless. So there we go. That's essentially my little chat. You've come out with me on a ride to review at 250 kilometers. I'm at about 400, by the way. That's where I'm at. This is where I am with the wheel. I've had no issues with it, no errors, no, at this point in time, absolutely no concerns whatsoever. Performing brilliantly. The ability to charge it with 2 charges is epic. Love it. So I'll see you guys on the 650 kilometer, which, if I can get the space to actually do it, should be fairly soon. We shall see. See you guys on the next one. Bye.